Adventure time. Psychohistory. Jake the dog and Finn the human. Here we are in adventure time. Quack quack. Oh, peace. Another foray into psychohistory, which really isn't a thing, but because I have a book and it's in it physically, it's a thing. Well, we're trying to make it a thing. But first, our prayer. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God of Rock, thank you for this chance to kick ass. We are your humble servants. Please give us the power to blow people's mind with our high voltage rock and reason. In your name we pray. In the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Technically a real prayer, and we're going to go with it. Okay, back to Adventure Times in psychohistory, which really isn't a thing. We're trying to make it a thing. We're trying to use the, but this one's a tough episode. I'm telling you, this has got me, and I'm even confused, and I'm usually confused, but I'm really confused on this one. But this one we're gonna try. We're gonna try. Usually, with the idea of psychohistory, we're trying to psychoanalyze history and how we got where we are. These episodes on 10 are going to be the modernism and the different strains of pathology that are in modernism. And eventually I'm going to have to do something about America and how America really is outside of that. And this is this modernism catching up with America now. But we have this thing called modernism, postmodernism, whatever you want to call it, and this period. And in it, there are certain pathological strains. And the idea we're going to use the knowledge in psychology, the set of knowledge that is that has been developed in psychology to analyze history and how we got here would be psychohistory. So it's science, which is all important in 2024 modernism. But on this particular episode, we're going to try and do the impossible, which is figure out women, which is impossible. What is, this is my line, what do women want? What's the mystery of women? This is a real simple answer. They don't know what they want. So how the hell are we going to figure out the strain of feminism, toxic femininity that's running through modernism if we don't know what feminine is or what women want? It's impossible. It's impossible. But we'll try. Who, you might ask, is Pearl Davis, and how is she going to save us? Well, Pearl of Arc, as we say, is technically an impossibility. She is the rational female. Now, before you get all in arms and say either that there is no such thing, or how dare you say that? Remember, I have 7 daughters, so I've suffered like no man, and you can't say she. Old Irish observation of that. So. Also, I don't believe that. The most rational females that I've ever run across are 2 of them in particular, both Chestnut Hill girls, both trained in the most brutal academic system you can be, Chestnut Hill College, history, Professor Johnson, and my mother, Margaret. But that was in their past the change, as it were, in which case they became hyper-rational. Before that, though, all bets are off. So I don't know. I can't attest to how they were before. And that's why, when I see a 28-year-old like Pearl Davis, I'm going, this cannot exist. A rational female? Now, what she's doing is she's one of these, she's out there. She's very controversial because she's in the red pill movement, apparently, whether she wants to be or not. But I ran across her because she did a debate with Andrew Clavin, one I'm a big fan of, but in it, he's 60 years old, she's 28, and she's just slapping him around. Now, usually, of course, in any debate, any female is going to be able to do that and is going to do that. But what made this so unique was that she's slapping him around, and it might even be taking the debate down because it was so embarrassing, over philosophy, things that you're thought about, and that you just don't see. because of course, women, because they're orientated differently, don't contribute much to philosophy or science. I know there's the one in there's 1 in 10 that we love and adore because they are unique that way. But in a field where he's been thinking and he's been rationalizing for 30 plus more years than she's been alive, how is this happening? Well, I know exactly what's happening because I've seen it before. And in the debate, she's arguing that marriage is stupid for men today, which is she's actually right about. It doesn't make sense. And he's arguing, of course, oh no, I'm a conservative. Marriage is the bedrock of civilization. It is. Marriage, good marriage is great. And she's making points like that's not where we are today. And you and your conservatives have pretty much destroyed it. And Andrew Klavan is with the Daily Wire, and he's with the Tennessee guys, the Tennessee boys. We might as well start calling them Big Con, as other people would call them. But they're all happily married, and they're all and she makes this point, well, listen, all you guys are happily married and you're just making this point, but marriage is irrelevant to your success. And Andrew Clavin's going, oh no, our marriage is paramount to our success. And she goes, really? And Clavin goes, oh no, you have to be married to get where we are. I had to be married. And she makes two great points. One of them being, so Andrew, you wouldn't pursue your life dreams if it wasn't for the fact that you're married? Mic drop on that one, right? Because, of course, he's been successful because he's been following his dreams, which are really irrelevant to the wife. And he goes, oh, yeah, but marriage is integral to that. And she goes, you have to be married to do that. He just says some statement like that. And she goes, really? Jesus wasn't married. Mic drop. Boom. And he just got slapped around the right. He could not see what she's saying. And there's a reason for that I know about, because I'm a criminal defense attorney, and it's actually something that comes up in rape trials, which I'm going to get to in a second. But before I do that, I have to go to okay, why can't he see this, right? Why can't Andrew Klavan see this? And the reason why is what I call, and I'm going to use this defense one of these days, evolutionary blindness, right? He is blind to certain things. Evolution has made sure that males are blind to certain things, just like it's made sure that females are blind to certain things, right? There's a male version of evolutionary blindness, and there's a female version of evolutionary blindness. And they would have to be, because otherwise there'd be no human race, right? But what Klavan can't do, what Klavan is doing is this. Klavan is institutionally unable to do certain things. And it's why I'm worried about this whole episode, because I don't know the answer, because I'm, as a male, is equally clueless and evolutionary blinded. Okay, so Klavan has to defend. What he can't see is that he has to defend his wife and has to defend all women. It's the Titanic effect, right? Some knucklehead runs into it's not looking, runs the ship into an iceberg. It starts sinking. All the men completely sit there, put all the women and children on the boats, and off they go. While they go, play music, sit in their chairs and sing songs as the ship goes down and they all die, right? The Titanic effect. And I lived over in Elkins Park, and there's a monument to the because he's one of the ones that died in it, to the women of Titanic, who, monument to the men for the fact that they all died like this. And because that's what men do. Men are evolutionarily built to defend all women. And so Klavan can't get over this. can't get past this sentence. Now, I can make the point that evolution obviously doesn't affect and isn't a true thing, because there in the Titanic there is no genetic connection to these women that these men are dying for, right? These men are dying for no reason at all other than Heavenly Father above and doing the right thing. But of course, my mother would shoot back at me again and again, because she did. Says that's only because all the women have made sure that evolutionary wise you've grown up that way. For the young boys who didn't, the women eliminated them. And as my mother said again and again, I should have strangled you in your crib. She meant that literally, that of course women, eliminated from the gene pool any men that were dumb enough or smart enough, depending on your opinion, to go, wait a minute, I'm not dying for any females. They don't care about me anyway, right? So that would be her counter to that. Again, in one sense, there is no more cutthroat, blood-curdling, bloodless, intelligence on the face of the planet than a woman who's been past the chain, like my mother or Patricia Johnson. But anyway, his Professor Johnson. But anyway, there is this thing, okay, this evolutionary blindness that Clavin and men cannot get past. And this is the problem, because, Pearl Davis has identified a huge evil in our society, a huge problem that if it's not addressed, it's over. It's all over, right? These are the pathologies of modernism. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to psychoanalyze the pathologies of modernism. And one of them is toxic femininity, out of control femininity. So I'm going to try and take a stab at this. Now, ultimately, there is an answer. And it comes from the first person I've ever heard of this, the greatest of all thinkers since Jesus, Bishop Sheen, the great Bishop Sheen, blessed Bishop Sheen, who should be a saint anytime soon. Bishop Sheen had said in the 1960s, 1950s, when he was doing his TV show, he said, and it's something that stuck in my head forever, the level of any civilization is the level of the virtue of its womanhood. Okay, so that's the equation. So civilization depends on the virtue of the womanhood, en masse, right? And he said that, and and now I'm going to go straight to hell. Let's see, I just went, I got some good points up, but these points are going to go straight to hell. Because now I'm going to equate that, which is a truism, which is as true if you go look out through history. It's going to have to be Rush Limbaugh's undeniable facts of life list, is that the level of any society is the level of the virtue of its womanhood. So one of the things that got Donald Trump in trouble, this is why I'm going to go straight to hell, was a comment he made that he could grab any woman by the woo-ha and make her do anything he wanted. Now, as a billionaire and as a famous person, that's probably true. The thing is, the reason why they got him in trouble is because I said, "Oh, that's horrible" at the time. I said, "Oh, just like Big Kanye, right? He's no good, right?" But at least for that. But the day he was elected, there was a woman on TV who I'm laughing my ass off at this stuff because he's elected, and I'm laughing, and a woman gets there, and a reporter corners her about this. How can you be for Trump? How could you he said this thing, and she goes, "Whoa, wait a minute. First of all, he stole that. He did not make that up." And the reporter, like me, was going, "What do you mean?" He said, "Wait a minute." And once she said this, I knew truth. And I'd heard this a million times in my life, or 1,000 times with, the ex and stuff like that, and never understood it. But then I understood it. She goes, "Wait a minute. Trump stole it. Trumpy baby stole that from women." Because the real saying goes like something like this: all I got to do is grab him by the tallywhacker, and I can make him do anything I want. And I'm going, ooh, mic drop. That is so true. And you think about it for a second, yeah, that's the case. Now, psychologists have broken it down into this, in that women, traditionally throughout all societies, women have access and control over sex. Okay, they are the gatekeepers of that. They are the gatekeepers of male getting sex. Men are the gatekeeper of commitment. And so they see society as this battle between the two, right? And a lot of truth is in that. So So women, it's one of those cases, the exception proves the rule. Sadie Hawkins Day, they never, offer, right? It's men who come to make the step to offer, and women who say yes or no, right? And the dynamic about sex. So there's the dynamic of sex. And I'm going to get back to that once we get to the history part of this, right? But first, we're still dealing with the psychology. So, criminal defense attorney. All right. How does this play out? Because you're not going to believe me when I said that, because I said the name Donald Trump. However, all right, so criminal defense attorney, jury picking, rape case. My old boss, who remained nameless because I don't want him getting killed for what I say, but he's a genius. XDA, 20 plus years. The best chief public what that there was, right? Well, one of them. But one of them. Definitely, that man deserves the position he was in. Anyway, in the rape case, I go, oh, how are you going to pick the jury? Let's me into the DA secret. The DA playbook. Beep, 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 beep. Open up the DA playbook. It says, for rape cases, this is counterintuitive, but put men on the jury. Now, why is that from the DA's perspective? The prosecutor's perspective. Why do you do that? Because you're going to have a female. It's counterintuitive because you're going to have a female, right? And you would think you could put men in there. Well, the men are going to think, well, I could be charged like that defendant. And I better find her. It's just in self-interest. I better find that she's lying because then I could get charged, right? That never happens. That's the exact opposite of actually what happens. So in the DA playbook is put all the men you can on the jury, which is technically illegal. You're not supposed to do that. On the defense attorney, which is why he was telling me this, what I should be doing is picking as many females as I can and put them on the jury. Now, he said this to me, I'm going like, you got to be kidding me. This doesn't make any sense. He goes, wait a minute. Think about it for a second, right? Men will be, no matter what, defensive of the alleged female rape victim. They're just going to be. She could be the most lyingest, villainous, a faker that there is on the face of the planet. Every single man is going to be on like the Titanic and defend her. They will go down to death defending her. Only women can penetrate her lies. So from the defense perspective, what we want to do, and this has actually worked, not only worked for rape cases for me, it's also worked for, more importantly, because they're more often, domestic cases, right? Because for a couple things, for a couple reasons. You have to put as many women as you can on the jury and let the women judge it. Now, the victim awareness creeps, and that's what they are. They're creeps. I have never met one of these people that wasn't a raving lunatic, right? These so-called victim awareness. They're going to say, that's because women judge women so harshly. Yes, women judge harshly because they're the only ones who can. All right? But there's multiple layers going on here. So when you put as many women as you can in on the jury, whether it's true or not, whether this person was raped or not, only women have the, number one, they can sidestep that evolutionary blindness that all men have, right? That then can penetrate to whether she's telling the truth or not. So multiple things are going on. Okay, so one thing is men versus women. I don't care what you say, even in the most egalitarian societies, Jordan Peterson point, Sweden to Norway, 80% of women deal with relationships and are nurses and things to dealing with people, right? 80% of men are dealing with actual physical things in the world. As Pearl Davis says, women do things that don't matter, human resources and teachers today. Men do things that matter. 99.9% of all bricklayers are men. 99.9% of the people who die are men. 99% of the people who turning on electricity and doing all those things that matter, that build the society, the universe that the world that we're living in right now, are done by men. That's because hunter-gatherer, right? Hunters are out there, they're quiet, they don't talk to each other, they make a few singles, they know where they are. That's why you never listen to a woman when she's telling you which direction you're going in, or hands you an apple. But they have to deal with the physical world, because the physical world is a man killer. It will kill us, right? Women, on the other hand, sitting around talking to each other, do the most impossible task that there is, which is, I don't care if you're a PhD, you can have a PhD in physics. It's not as hard as what a woman does, which is, Andrew Clavin would say create a home. I would say create a human being, the next generation. But that part of that is creating a home. So, again, Bishop Sheen is correct, right? Virtuous women, virtuous home, virtuous family, virtuous children, right? Virtueless women, virtueless home, virtueless family, virtueless children. That's where we are right now, all right? So, okay, so what's going on? Again, so women are the only people who can penetrate to the truth when dealing with testimony of a woman, right? Because a couple things. Number one, they're orientated to relationships, okay? So, and number two, one of my favorite singers, of course, is Sinatra, right? Because Sinatra's voice is unique among male singers. There's so much going on in Sinatra's voice. It's almost feminine, right? And if you don't believe me, compare voices from the earlier. Compare Doris Day, no account, white vanilla Doris Day, and the greatest female singer of all time, Ella Fitzgerald, right? Those two voices they have so much more going. So there's like one, for a man, there's like a flat wave for communication, but for women, there's so much more imported in that. There's multiple sine waves of intelligibility and intelligence being translated in everything that a woman says. Okay, and especially it translates in voices. You can't see it today because today's music is just nonsense. And Taylor Swift has one sine wave. No good man. Right? But go listen to, and to this day, I think Ella Fitzgerald is the greatest female singer of all time, I think. I think if you saw that, if you like put it in, it has to be that way. But there are other women that are just equivalent, Doris Day being one of them, that are equivalent compared to everything else. So that's one thing. The other thing too is, okay, I have 7 daughters, and I do this professionally, cross-examining people in all the years I've been doing this, 30 plus years with my daughters. I have only successfully caught one of them in a lie one time. So my batting average as a male, as a professionally trained male, in cross-examination is 0.000000001 to a million, right? I mean, it's the lowest batting order, and like I've been trained. I know my IQ is 135. I know because my mother tested me. So I mean, I'm on the upper scale on that. So professionally trained, high IQ, not the highest, but still a high IQ, and I can't catch. And I only caught her because she was transitioning from being a teenager to from being a child to a teenager. I got her early enough, and of course, as to all you women, any women who's listening to this, go, why do you do this to your father? Right? Your father is the one person who will die for you for any reason under the sun, let alone. But what it is I explained to her, okay, I understand what this is. It's not my first rodeo, right? This is just you as a young female looking to learn how to manipulate and lie to all the males, right? Even your dear old dad. And that was the end of my life, because my baby became a teenager. I have no existence no reason to exist now. And the end of my life, and the war is on. Now I have a teenage female that I must suppress at all costs till she gets past her teenage years, and she could hopefully become a virtuous woman. But boy, the war is on. like I said, I'll have to do a whole episode on that one time of that. So those are the things that are going on, with a female that allows a female only to penetrate in a criminal case whether this alleged rape victim is telling the truth or alleged domestic victim is telling the truth. The problem is, that's on the macros, the micro scale. Problem is, macro scale wise, what do we do now? Because it's not one of them. It's half the society is women, and that's why I'm kind of like thinking we're screwed. Because ultimately only Pearl Davis of ARC and females can fix this problem. Because men are never going to be able to have the wherewithal to talk women out of to talk women to rationalize to the point where they can fix the problems themselves. I'm hoping, maybe she can save us. Maybe Pearl of ARC can save us, but okay, I'm going to give you some. I'm going to delve into a little bit of cliometrics, which is I'm going to get, once we do psychohistory and make that a thing, we're going to go into cliometrics, which was already a thing, which was a thing back when I was studying history, which is really the statistical analysis of history, right? But I'm going to give you a little step for that, because you might want to ask, well, what's the math on that? Because I've actually figured out the math on that. And then here it is. Okay. Oh man, everything is backwards. Oh shoot. Oh well. Hopefully you'll see this the right way. If not, then I'll have to explain it to you and you're going to have to see it through. Okay, so math on the quantum of the feminine mystique or toxic femininity, whichever one you want to say. So Q, TFM, which is not a nice thing because we're saying it's toxic, but say it's not toxic yet. Just say, we're going to theorize that it doesn't become toxic until it doesn't have a place to go. And that's these little hearts here, right? This is women's, need to love things all throughout society, right? These little hearts, right? So we'll say it's not toxic at this point. We'll say it's feminine mystique, right? Q, quantum of feminine mystique equals this amount of love for the world. Love. Oop, I forgot. While we're talking about love, I have to do my tubing check so that we know that we have my pants on. Hopefully you can see I got my pants on, kids. Thank you, Mr. Tubin of CNN. All right. So I have my pants on, but how much quantum of the feminist mystique is there out there? I think, looking with no basis, with little basis, the basis of observation of being my age, that it's one male, it equals to one male plus 3 kids. Okay? Probably because, and there might be a basis to this number, because one male would be, listen, there's not a lot to keep a man happy. I mean, it's really simple. As Pearl says, it's silence, sex, and sandwich, right? That is a pretty beautiful, equation there. But it's really, there's not a lot going on in a man's head. So it's really only like 10%. You only need to talk to him a little bit, right? And a lot of women are just, they're frustrated and stuff because there's nothing, they want more from their man. So why I think women become lesbians too, is because then it's like, equal. You can back and forth, right? But there's not a lot there. You only need, he only has 10% capacity to talk to any human being anyway. So you could fill him. So that doesn't fill up a woman, all the hearts, all these hearts, one man, and then 3 kids. And I'll tell you, reason why is because, what they say is evolutionary wise, every person is the product of 80%, 40% to 80%. It's 80% female, and 40% of males have children, 80% of females have children, right? So there's a ratio there of 2 to 1, which kind of makes sense because, you have 2 boys. Boys don't take up a lot of energy or bandwidth. Maybe bandwidth is a better way to explain it, of communication bandwidth. But any female, any girl child, of course, will. So I figure 2 boys to 1 girl, because boys go off and die fighting for the universe or for the world or for the tribe. So that's why I have 3 kids. 3 kids, 1 male, which equals either 1 male and 2 dogs, because I see a lot of that, or because I actually, in the law, you do landlord tenants, and I do a thing where I'm an arbitrator for that. And one girl, they were trying to get rid of, the tenant because she had 27 cats. Now, cats don't give as much love as a dog, and I'm gonna have to do a whole theory on that, on why, because I actually might know the answer to that one. 30,000 years we've had to evolutionize dogs to be where they are. Basically, oh man, all right. So domestication of cats, along with things like horses, I think has been like 8,000 years. Domestication of dogs has been like 30,000 years. Theoretically, it's in psychology, so I might as well get it. Although it's not in human psychology, it's in dog psychology, because I was a canine officer once, and this is where I learned this. So dogs, what they theorize is there's a bond period for any creature. If you have a newborn baby in your hands and your father, it's called the golden minute, where the baby looks around like, oh my gosh, right? And the baby bonds with the dad at that point. And that happens. Mom's too much out of it, but that bond is the first bond, and then dad will do anything for that baby, right? But also there's a bonding period, right, where they theorize that there's a bonding period for any creature with its mother. That's why you can have like ducks raise doggies, or doggies raise cats and stuff like that, because there's a bond period. What makes a wolf different from a dog is that bonding period has been naturally selected, not naturally selected, humanly selected, which is, remember, condition probability, and expanded out a lot. So the difference between a wolf, because we had a wolf named Yukon, and a human being. The difference between a wolf and a human being, and a wolf and a dog, is a wolf does not care about a human being at all. You can have one wolf. We had a wolf. He was, that size, it was the size of the biggest dog you can imagine, with the size of a bear head, right? And Yukon, all he did was pace constantly back and forth, because that's wolf, right? Could care less about a human being. It was useless for what we needed, because it wouldn't bite a human being. You had no problem with one wolf. 2 wolves or 3 wolves, you got a huge problem, a big league problem, because now, remember, the size of this thing's head is like the size of a Rottweiler, right? But you're too big for it to eat, so it doesn't care about you at all. You can't make it do tricks. You can't make it care about a human being at all, right? A dog, on the other hand, a well-trained canine, lives and dies for its human being, right? But that comes from 30,000 years of expanding out that bond period to include human beings, so that the dog becomes bonded to a human being as a puppy, to where the human being's life is more important than a human being. Domestication, what we theorize anyway. So drive theory, which I'll probably get into some other time, but drive theory. Behaviors are wrong. Pavlov, Thorndike were right, early psychologists. Idiot Skinner comes by with the black box, says bird pecking on thing, we can make it do more of. Oh, but then it became behaviorism, if we add something to it, then we're positive behaviors, and then if we take it away, then it's negative. No, go back to Pavlov and Thorndike. If it feel good, it happened more often. If it feel bad, it happened less often. So behaviors were wrong. Dog world moved to because it would be one command, one correction. So you'd go sit and Z, and if you didn't sit, you would take the leash and you would go, you can't see me doing it, but you go whack, and it would get one jerk up, and then you go down, and if you didn't go down, you go down, and one jerk down, and then heel, and you go heel. So it was literally one correction, one command, and you get a sullen dog who won't do who will do what it's supposed to, but not want to do it. Then there was the happy horseshit. Oh look, we'll get it with food, right? We'll just feed it food. We go sit up, and then we there's a whole thing. If you can see that, we go sit. Same thing, sit down, stay. But problem with that is dog sees squirrel, runs after squirrel, and you go, phooey plots, and a dog keeps going after squirrel and gets run over by car. So I was trained by the great sergeant and trainer in the Bruce Lee method of, okay, these dogs have natural built-in drives. A drive is a desire to do something. Maybe it's a subroutine where they get it. And human beings have this too. They have a work drive, they have a sex drive. They have these different subroutines that initiate behavior. What you want to do is you want to condition that behavior, positive, negative, in the way that you want. How did I get off on this? Anyway, drive behavior. So dogs have a drive to bond, right? It's extended, worked into human beings. If you progressively speed up the human manipulation of conditional probability in cats, you will eventually get, if you can extend that window the way you did dogs, the way we have dogs, cats who love human beings and care as much as dogs do, right? Now they definitely do not. Because they don't, there's a quantum in there. We're going to say that dog is huge, like human being, child, almost like that, right? Cat is like little tiny one there. So you have 27 of them to one little heart, right? Now, why does this all matter? Well, think about it. We're going to get to the history, right? But this is the source, excess, unrealized estrogen that gives toxic femininity. What is this? How does this relate today? Well, this is what you get. You get, now remember, as a disclaimer, I'm going to do my disclaimer. I, of course, am not saying this as a male right now. I am reading my disclaimer so that I am not canceled by YouTube. I do not believe, this is nothing more than an opinion that I have heard, that men are necessary and are equal to females, and they both have an indispensable role. You cannot negate one of them. Okay, so both are needed. Why both are needed? Both need a perspective in life, and both need it in childhood. So child runs across the room, child trips, falls on shoelace. Mom runs over, and it doesn't have to be mom. It can be reversed. It can be dad. But if it's dad, then the other end of it has to be mom, right? You can have either or, right? But how do I get? Should I say? But you have to have two opposite sex, even if they switched. So if the male is now presenting as a female, then the female has to present as a male. Oh, we're so screwed. But anyway, opposite perspectives are required to handle this situation. And all of life is this situation. Kids tripped on shoelace. One of them, for the moment, we're going to say mother, runs across, picks up child, pats the child, wipes the tear away from the child. Child says, "It's going to be okay, baby. It's going to be all right, hon. Don't worry. It's going to keep," and treats the wound, treats the pain, and makes no judgment and says that, right? The other one we're going to say is the dad at this point. He says, "Hey, kid, from across the room, next time you tie your sneaker, you won't trip. All right? You need both. No matter what you do, you need both. You need. Now, interestingly enough, the great psychiatrist, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. The third great Austrian, who was the real great Austrian, not Freud, who was an idiot. He was smart, but he was a moron. He was virtuous, and that's why it screwed him up in the end. Not Jung, the third one, which I'm blanking on, who survived Auschwitz, the death camps, and wrote a great book on suffering, which I have in my car right now, which I can't remember the name of. But he'd always said that just like the United States has a Statue of Liberty on one end of the coast, we should have on the other end of the coast a statute of responsibility, right? And it's the both. It's the yin and the yang that you need, right? You need the freedom, but you need the responsibility, right? And in this too, you need the love, but you need the responsibility. Well, that's my disclaimer. But so you need both. But the toxic. So what do you do though when you have the history of where we are now? Because the question is, well, what happens if you have females who do not have a receptacle for the little hearts, because that's what this is, right? On the one end of the equation, you have the female, right? On the other end, you have the male, right? They're opposite ends. I know I'm going to get canceled for that, but you have all these love, but no place for it to go. So where does it go? That's toxic femininity. And what happens is that goes out into the general society and destroys society. Because then what you get is this. Oh, and for this, you know, I'm even like, I'm pro illegal immigration, because of course I am the grandson of an illegal immigrant who will get the last word even in this episode, because he's the smartest person I ever run into, Filomena with an F, Baldini, who was an illegal Italian immigrant to this country, hiding from the government till 1986, when Ronald Reagan came on TV, and we were all sitting there, and he said, "Oh, I'm giving amnesty to all the illegals," and Grandmom goes, "Whoa, I'm illegal now." We looked over at Otavio and go, "Did you know that?" Anyway, what you see now, unfortunately, is you see this toxic femininity. What's toxic femininity? Well, it's destroying the electorate right now. It's saying something like this is like, "Oh my God, that poor illegal rapist. They need a bottle of water." You poor rapist, and the rest of us are going like, "Wait a minute." Why are we facilitating illegal rapists coming over the border? Shouldn't we stop and go, whoa, wait a minute. Listen, I know you're coming from another country. Did you rape anybody in that country? Because if you raped anybody in that country, we have enough of our own domestic rapists here. We don't need any more rapists. All right? We're going, wait a minute. Why are we letting in rapists? And the woman with nobody to give the love to goes, "Oh, but the rapist needs a place to go rape. The rapist needs a place to come. Please let the rapist in. Here's a bottle of water." And the rest of us are going, "Wait a minute, why are we letting in rapists? That's not good. Don't we have enough of our own domestic rapists? Can't we say nix to any raping? Raping is bad. Raping is not good. People who do rape is not good. We should stop it." Right? Again, hey kid, tie your sneaker, and that won't happen. But of course, to the unconditional love of a mother or female, that's impossible. They can't say that. Hence, toxic femininity at loose. Now, there's some big problems with this historically. If you take Bishop Sheen's principle, truism, true, look back in history, industrial age. Now we're getting to the history part. Finally, in psychohistory, we're getting to the history part. How this has worked out. So take this as Bishop Sheen's principle as true. That every society level of civilization is set by the women. So Middle Ages, women are doing all the spinning and all the weaving for the clothes. Industrial Age comes by. Industrial Age takes all those jobs. Well, actually, two things. I mean, there's the truism of that is the first industrialization was also on the farm in America, but also we're going to go with England. I'm just going to leave that out for a second. Say it's in the industrialization is first in Europe, and it's textile industry, and they're making textiles by machines. Now, industry. Women are SOL. Boom. No use for women again. What do? They have control over the sex. So you get the Victorian age, right? You get huge. They restrict the amount, the ability of sex, and put the value of sex up huge, bigly, right? If you see an ankle, wow, man, you, my friend, have gotten somewhere in life. You're close. You could procreate, but Victorian age. Then World Wars 1 and 2, same thing. The knucklehead suffragettes have come along and say, we need equality, right, before this. And then in World War I, they do the white feather thing, and they send all these men to die. And then there's a shortage of men. And in World War II, because the men have to go off to war, women fill in the industry, but They're just doing things that men have already set up. But they get this notion that, oh, yeah, they can work. Problem is they can't do anything. I know, 1 out of 10. And I just saw it today on YouTube. There's this brilliant, this super genius physicist, female physicist. Yes, you can have 1 out of 10 or 1,000 or whatever this you're like that. Yes, but the majority, we're talking well over the majority. Well over the majority is 3/4, 80% are no. And part of this too is the American frontier was different, because the American frontier, women, there was so much labor necessary. Women did all those tasks, like being sheriff, like doing a lot of the tasks, cowboying and all the rest of it, which is different. That's why America is completely unique and different. I'll get to it one of these days. But for the most part, we're talking about modernism and the strain of toxic femininity. So then they come out of the war, and knuckleheads like Betty Friedan, a virtueless woman, spoiled, agnostic, atheist, had 2 good parents, but apparently not a good parents because they spoiled her. Gets married, has 3 kids, of course gets divorced, goes through this in the 60s, writes the feminine mystique, lies to all these females. First she says that her husband abused her, typical lie, right? And then later she recants it on there because there's absolutely no proof of it, and she was a lie. She was lying. She just wanted to play the victim card. But you get this, you get the post-war. There's a normalcy, and then you have the advent of birth control and I can't say the A word, baby murdering. Okay, if I say the A word, I'll get canceled. So the algorithm will cancel me. And so these twin things, though, think about what that does, though, because remember, this is the level of a society is the virtue of the womanhood, right? All of a sudden, you are devaluating sex, right? Sex get completely devaluated, right? And now Pearl's point is that women, when they organize themselves into harems, probably, and this is my comment, because they want somebody to talk to. And let's face it, you ain't going to talk to a man, right? There's nothing to talk to. Sports? All right. That takes all 1/10 of the time of your life. So because a lot of lying, virtueless females, dirtbag, Gloria Steinem, right? Evil people. And my grandmother gets the last word on this, that one too. Her last word on that one was trouble likes company, right? So these evil, unhappy harpies, and this is a female thing. I've observed again and again and again. Virtueless women love to spread the misery, right? Like my grandma says, misery likes company. She would say, something would happen up, some female done something like this, she would go, misery likes company, that's why she's doing it. She was absolutely right. 6th grade education, didn't speak English, spelled Philomena with an F. The wisdom of the mountains from Italy, right? Misery likes company. And so these evil females, harpies, right, talk a bunch of other females into, oh yeah, this is a great idea, right? Oh, this is what you need for fulfillment, right? Not lots of love to give, not receptacles to give love to, children and men, right, and marriage, right? But, oh, go have blah, blah, blah sex. Oh, great. Be virtueless. Be hoes. Not ending well, right? Currently, you see the way the society is going off the rails. It's going off the rails because of toxic femininity let loose, in society, and glomming onto things without any reason or rationality or responsibility. But also, there's never been higher levels of misery for women. They've been talking to it, and they took over the legal system. As I know, 90% of alimony, females, 80% of custody goes to women. Although Pearl makes a great point that the child is less safe in the hands of the women. Why? Well, I would make the point that they do most of the raising, but as Pearl makes the point, is they do most of the killing Two, it's very, 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 very rare, almost non-existent that a male kills a 1-year-old, whereas all the 99% of all the killing of 1-year-olds are women. And single mother families, which is a function of the government, the ED government, and the Great Society, don't produce as well as male-led single families. It's just the statistics. So she's absolutely right on that. But women have never been more miserable, never been on any medication, as if a pill can save you, as like a pill can make you better. It can't make you better, and whatever chemicals is putting through your system is a false chemical response, which is never going to work, because eventually you're going to need more of it, and now you're addicted to drugs. And it's going to have other unintended consequences, because there is no pill for life. That's the red pill answer for everything, right? There is no pill for life. You got to suck it up, bear your cross, and do it with a smile on your face, baby. Male or female. Suck it up and walk into hell, because we're all going to die. So women make these horrific decisions, right? Getting rid of men, being out there on their own, turn 30, 40, 90% of them don't have and they don't have a baby. 90% of them regret it, and they'll regret it forever. So you have this unhappiest society ever that we have right now. And what's going to happen? Well, it's unsustainable, right? You're going to have a force majeure, and maybe this is what the thing in history, when we look back at, as how this has not happened before, or rarely happened before in history, sooner or later, because you've so destroyed your manhood, men, because you so, and let's face it, manhood to men today, and I have all the sympathy in the world for my brothers/sisters who become, quote, trans and want to go swim on a girls swimming team, or whatever, is listen, my brothers/sisters, they just want to join the winning team. right? But when you have the situation today, like, where you have, it's going to ever escalate out of control. For example, I have no sympathy at all for women's sports, like this Gainer girl, because this is their creation. So back in the day when I was in college, men's sports was 10 times more than women's sports. Why? Well, because men are stupid, and they need something to bash their head against other men to keep them out of trouble, which is sports, right? Women don't need sports like that. Men need it. And so when they turned all college sports and all colleges over to women, when 2/3 of college is now for women, what are the men supposed to do, right? They're out. They can either join a team as a woman, and now they're competing against women, which they beat up and get out of the way, beat all the time. When college, the purpose of it is no longer there. And so what's going to happen? Well, now, as we know from psychology, women mate across and up, men will mate across and down. So the only way so for women, what are these women, these college age women? So they're 2/3 of women now will only mate with another college level, and that's only 1/3 of them. There's only 1/3 of men like that. So that's automatically 1/3 of women who are not going to be able to mate, because they only mate with 1/3 up. Now, some of them are men who are going to be able to become a plumber or an electrician and jump college and achieve, or the military or something like that, because you don't need college to achieve today. Unfortunately, it's destroyed college. Much to I'm sure my mother and Patricia Johnson are shaking their heads after all the work they did. But automatically 1/3 of women are going to be left out of the equation, right? And that other third, we're only going to mate across and up. Anyway, so this is a ever escalating. As that time over there, you're going to have less and less men even going to college, right? But it's even worse than that, because now the men aren't men. Men are women, and they're in the military, and they're spending all their time, as I just saw an ad for the Navy, transing, putting on a wig and being a whatever they call that, the ones where they dress up transvestite, whatever they call it today, or the drag queen. And now they're recruiting for drag queen. So she's worried more about he, they, she, whatever, worried more about being a drag queen than they are what missiles they're going to have to be able to shoot at the damn Chinese communists when they attack us. So eventually, the society collapses. And it's going to collapse demographically too. The demography is a last man literally standing proposition. So that if you stop having babies, you die off, Japan, and then you're replaced by somebody else who is having babies. Yemen, right? Literally, it is a last man standing proposition, though, because you won't be able to defend your country. You won't be able to defend your tribe or your area if you don't have virtuous women making virtuous men and making virtuous sons and virtuous daughters, right? Fortunately, I had a virtuous mother who did that, and that's why I have virtuous brothers and a virtuous sister. But if you don't have that, you got problems. And it's even going to get worse, because what do men do? Men fix problems. So problem is, so now in our society, there's a deficit. You have all these virtueless women running around. You have they're, as Pearl Davis points out, they are only, they are lying to themselves, saying that they are tens and they go after only, and so as the statistics show, they go after 20% of men, because only 20% of men are actually attractive to them. And only 5% of women adore men. So this has created a huge deficit. So the number of men and these men, they're happy because they're getting multiple females, right? And a large section of men are completely frozen out. What are the alternatives? Well, one alternative for both sides is Jesus. Because if you're an unmarried female, you can always turn to Jesus, and he loves you, and he will love you no matter what, right? And take you forever. And for your man, we can always become a monk, plant things, build things, and things like that. But a lot of our male brethren, have said, oh, okay, there's a problem here. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to invent computers, the internet, pornography, virtual porn, and then AI. So you have AI porn, and then sex bots, okay? Robots and sex bots, right? What happens? And I see it pops up on my feed right now. The AI generated, female, in bustier, with a huge bosom and narrow, narrow waist and flaring hips. And a face is more beautiful than, because she's a composite, than any woman, than Kate, not, what's her name? Kate Upton, whatever. Maybe not. Yeah, she's even prettier than Kate Upton, the one who keeps popping up on my Facebook thing. Then they're going to get it AI, so they're going to, I think they're actually doing now, I haven't seen it though, but AI faking it, right, where they're going to be moving and talking to you. And men are visual anyway, and they have limited communication bandwidth anyway, so they don't necessarily need a high bandwidth. So you could easily fool men, if that's a actual woman, right? That's going to satisfy men's on this equation, men's needs, right, for interaction with the female, right? They only have a 10% bandwidth anyway that has to be satisfied. Then you're going to add, sex bots. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a woman, because men are dumb. Men are stupid, right? And what happens when that is? Well, men have solved the problem. They're not right now. Women have devalued sex to the point where it's worthless, and it's easier and getting better to get on than on a computer. What happens when it's better than what you would get in a real world, because sex, silence, and a sandwich. So they talk to you what little bit you need to be talked to. They make you a sandwich. The robot has sex with you, and then it's over. Right now, I love my car, Betsy, because Betsy provides for me, right? And I talk to Betsy all the time. Actually, my favorite car lover of the past was Baby. I loved Baby. I lived in Baby for several months. I cried to Baby. I prayed over Baby. I love Baby. I put my blood and sweat into Baby again and again, and Baby took me all over the world. Baby took me down to see my son graduate. From infantry training school. Baby took me to his first posting up at Fort Drum. Baby took me through the snow, through the ice. Baby took my children wherever I had to drop them off, whether it's to DA camp or to court or to school regularly. Faithfully transporting my children. Their Baby did everything for me. What happens when Baby starts talking back to me, and then offers me, if offers me a sex and a sandwich? I'm out, kids. You're all on your own. Sorry, I'm only a man. I'm only an idiot. There's not a lot going on up here. It's easy to fool. It is civilization collapse. Or God'll get tired, and it won't be water this time. It'll be aliens or a firestorm. But the number has to be fulfilled one way or another. And if men figure it out, it'll be sex bots or AI porn or whatever. And we have the further escalating. So a virtuous circle goes up and a vicious circle goes down, right? And we're in the middle of a vicious circle. Down. And so what is going to save us? Who can save us? In flies Pearl Davis, right? Ultimately, it's going to have to be women who decide to be virtuous. And that's what I really think that, she gets a lot of grief. I can't believe she's 28 years old. But she's making obviously points, but it's ultimately no man, because we are genetically predisposed to defend all women, can actually fix this and change this. Even I as a dad limit it to what I will correct a child with, and that's because that's the nature of being a dad. There's a famous scene in with Sean Connery and the beautiful supermodel of her day, Rampling. It's Where Does Oz? It start off, right? It's a science fiction dystopia movie. Sean Connery's running around in shorts with a gun, and this is the famous the gun is good and the penis is bad, right? This is amazing science fiction movie. In the end, so there's a feminized society of supermodels running around, and they no longer have, they've been taken over by ennui, and they no longer have the will to survive. And the barbarian, horsemen, Sean Connery types are running around bare-chested, all masculine, all male toxicity with guns, shooting up the place. Anyway, they take, Sean Connery takes over, wins, and then makes supermodel his queen, and reestablishes barbarian society, which would be a traditional society, which is, I guess, the point of this movie. And in it, there's a famous, at the very end, he's king and she's queen, and they're sitting there, right? And then they have a little baby, and they do like this time forward, like fast forward time period, and the baby grows up, becomes a young man, and goes to take off, and the mom, the queen, gets up and tries to interfere in that life, and Sean Connery goes, puts his hand on her and holds her to the spot, and they stay in the spot, and they grow old as old king and queen, and then they die and become skeletons and all the rest of it, right? That's what a father's going to do, is he's going to stop, because at some point the kids have to learn it on their own, right? And you can't intervene anymore, right? So even as a father, the so-called paternity, there's this, the male patriarch is a myth. Okay, the only way it worked, I guess, is back in ancient Rome when the father had the ability to kill the wife and the child. Maybe that works, and maybe you have to bring that back. I don't know. I'm just saying. But even in that case, there's a limit to what a father is going to do. He's going to have to say, "Listen, kids, I love you. But at some point, even I, as your father, cannot help you. All I can do is be able to pick up the pieces, help you as much as I can, and say, I told you so." Right? That's all we can do. There's a limit to what even a male father, the patriarch, can do. Ultimately, this is going to have to be something that virtuous females step up and do something about. And that means they're going to have to take a stick and start beating the shit out of the virtueless females, the so-called feminists, and shaming them for the hoes that they are. And the lack of virtue that they have, and they're going to have to put down their feminist. Oh, we're all in this with women together, and realize, as I do as a parent, that one of those amazing statistics is that half the people you have are going to get born in any society are going to be male, and half of them are going to be female. Unless you use eugenics of some nature, like you're the Greeks throwing female babies on the hill to die, or Chinese aborting. Oh, I said the word. I hope they dare. Blah, 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 blah. If it's the Chinese communists doing it, hopefully they don't get killed for that in the algorithm. The female children, which is it's evil. Unless you're using eugenics of that nature, half the babies you're going to get born are male, and half babies you're going to get born are females. So it's in your interest, whether you're male or female, whether you're a mother or father, to make sure that your children are virtuous either or, regardless of sex. And so ultimately, it's not a battle of sexes or between the sexes. It's a battle between the virtuous and the unvirtuous. And that's the lesson that females and toxic femininity has to learn. And I can spout myself all I want, but it's going to be up to women like Pearl Davis, and hopefully my daughters, to save the day. And hopefully she'll have the strength, and she'll be Joan of Arc. She will lead us dumb society onto the right path, and it will be Pearl Davis of Arc, and she will lead us following the cross to the to virtue, back into a civilization of virtue, and we can ditch this stupid modernism. Now, or we're totally screwed, and some other society is going to take us over, or the aliens. All right. So it's going to be a virtuous circle up, or a vicious circle down. The choice, my spiritual babies, is up to you. However, I'm way over, but not that far over. There is hope. Back to the great Filomena with an F, Baldini, Italian illegal immigrant, with the wisdom of the mountains, who, despite all this, the brilliance of my parents and grandparents, and everything I've read or learned, still has the most succinct wisdom I've ever run across. One of the best movie, one of my top 10 movies, is Marty, which won the Academy Award back in the day when it meant something. And it's got Ernest Borgnine, an Italian, a big fat guy, Mikhail's Navy, Mikhail, in it, and it's one of the greatest movies ever. And so why I'm telling you this is because it's the only hope that we have, right? And in it, it's such an amazing performance. He's alone and he's lonely. And men, as we know from Genesis, men being alone is not good. And he meets a girl, and even at one point, he turns evil because he's so lonely and needs love and sex, right? But then he remembers who he is and becomes that. I love this movie for a lot of reasons, but there's he meets a girl who's kind of plain, but is a teacher, right? And his mother is literally Philomena. I swear, I swear, it's a little Italian grandma. This is my grandma, right? Right. But in a good, but she's a lot like her in a lot of ways, and a lot not like her. My grandmother would never have done that. Interestingly enough, she did tell me, meeting the blonde chicks that I did finally marry, she did say, stick with your own kind. And if I'd listened to her, but um, but the but in it, anyway, they're afraid they're going to be lonely, and so and all of his friends talk Ernest Bernine into not going and trying to find this teacher, right? And it's such a wonderful movie. Anyway, the ultimate moment comes where he's fallen back into his old ways. He's alone again. He's desperate. He's it's out the bottle and alcoholism, or and continue way he goes, or he he can, because he's repudiated her, and he lets it, or he can do something, right? And so she's desolate. The teacher, having been left alone, is desolate and is watching television with her parents, right? And his friend asks him, "What are you doing?" And Marty bursts out and says this. He says, "You don't like her. My mother doesn't like her. She's a dog, and I'm a fat, ugly man. Well, all I know is I had a good time last night. I'm going to have a good time tonight. If we have enough good times together, I'm going to get down on my knee and I'm going to beg that girl to marry me. If we make a party on New Year's, I got a date for that party. You don't like her? That's too bad." And then the movie ends as he shuts because he's on a telephone. He's in a telephone booth, and he shuts the door, and he picks up the phone, and he calls her, right? And he goes, "Hello, Clara." And that's the end of the movie. And it makes this amazing point that my grandmother has says again and again and again. For everybody out there, there's someone. That, my spiritual babies, is what it's all about. God bless.